Today we are looking at the magazine article, which is part of your transactional writing for paper 3. We will look at how to create a catchy headline, how to interpret your question, writing a killer introduction, mind mapping and generating your ideas, and structuring your article so that you can get the best mark possible if this comes up in your exam. So have a look at the question, which is taken from November 2015, paper 3. So if you look at this question, I want you to decide on what are the key words of the question, because those key words are going to form the paragraphs of your article. So it's very important that you start off with selecting the key words from the question so that you know exactly what you are going to be writing about. Right, the next thing we are going to do is to look at how to create a headline. So any magazine article or newspaper article must have a headline as well as a subheading. So here is a tip. If you don't know how to come up with a catchy headline on the spot, then you can start with looking at the keywords of the question and turning it into a rhetorical question. So as you can see, this is what I've done here. Okay, I've got my rhetorical question now as the headline for this article. This is an advice article. So if you have an article that is all about advice, then your subheading must be very short and to the point. It can start off with the words a guide or advice. So here we have a guide to health for teenagers. And then under that is going to be your name as the person who wrote this article. Okay, so there you have got your headline, you've got your keywords, and the next thing you're going to do is you're going to sit and do a mind map. In your exam, there might not be enough time to write an entire rough draft, so you can just do some planning in the form of a mind map. A mind map is where you're going to come up with your ideas. How many ideas do you need to write this article? You need maximum 3 ideas. So with 3 ideas, you are able to write a really good magazine article as long as you are sticking to what is being asked in that question. So you can have a look at the ideas that I have come up with, and you can sit with this question and decide what your idea, you don't have to use my ideas, decide what your ideas are going to be. Then let's have a look at how you've got your main ideas, you've generated those off your mind map. Okay, your next step is to create a really excellent introduction that will get the reader's attention. Your first sentence is very important because that is what's going to grab the reader, and we call this the hook. You need to hook that person in so that they really want to read your article. And there is my hook. Are you literally allergic to exercise? Right, would you be interested in reading that? Ask yourself. That is a rhetorical question. I've used a rhetorical question. That's a very good technique to use as your hook. Then I've got another rhetorical question. Do you think it's impossible to achieve your health goals? Okay. After that, I've also got a quote from a famous person. So in your introduction, you don't have to use both a rhetorical question and a quote. You can use either one, but it's good to have one of those prepared. Okay, so use at least one of those. The famous quote, it doesn't have to be a real quote. Nobody will know. You can prepare a number of quotes before you write your exam, have them all in your head, as find inspirational quotes from famous people. Okay, so there we've got the rhetorical question and the quote as part of the introduction. Another way of writing an introduction is to start with a counter argument. So some teenagers believe that health and good exercise habits are for old people. I mean, we have the rest of our lives to do that, don't we? I'm here to prove you wrong. So there you go. I have started with saying the opposite. Okay, and if you notice the register that I've used, it is geared towards teenagers because your audience is teenagers. So make sure that you check who the audience is and you write in the appropriate register. Please try to avoid slang, okay, because it often ends you up in trouble and it just reduces the quality of your writing. Finally, we come to the body of the article. Okay, now we want to see you doing an introduction, your body paragraphs, and your conclusion. Please keep the body paragraphs as short as you can. So a few tips on how to back up your arguments. You can use some statistics. You can use anecdotes, or you can make up examples. Okay, so if you look at my example of my first paragraph, okay, I start with a topic sentence. Then I've included some statistics, an anecdote, and an example. Right, you don't have to use all three. Actually, it's better to probably just use one in each paragraph. The statistics do not have to be factually correct. Just mention the date and mention the university it came from, and then some kind of a percentage. You can make it up. It doesn't have to be factual. The same with the anecdote. I just made up that anecdote. So if you don't know what an anecdote is, it's a little story that people make up to prove a point. All right, and then paragraph 2. There I've just put the topic sentence, and you've got get your topic sentence, and then you write out your paragraph. Must all be about the topic sentence. Third paragraph could provide solutions. Remember that the question is about tips, so you must put a whole bunch of tips in the article. Okay. On the memo, it said if the learners have not included tips, that the mark will not be very high because the main question is really asking about tips. And then you come to your conclusion. Try to make it interesting so that you're still holding the reader's attention. Go back to the main question in your conclusion. Okay, so the main question is tips for teenagers. And there you're going to kind of summarize what you've said, and you're going to go back to the tips. You can give a few more tips if you want, but just make sure that you make your conclusion as interesting as possible. Okay, so I hope that this gives you a good idea on how to write an article where you including different types of information to substantiate. You're putting in your statistics, you're putting your anecdotes in, and that should earn you a very good result for your transactional writing.